Hey everybody, good morning. This is Super Mike on the B1 Math Science and History channel. We just want to go over some information here. This is going over the moon. There's some information that we had about the moon, and we'll go over some of the history that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad shared with us about the tribe of Shabazz. So let's look at this here. We'll share on the screen. All right, so we'll go in this one, tribe of Shabazz. So, you know, a lot of these things people will believe and won't believe. Really doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is to get the information into your ears so that when things get confirmed in reality, you'll know that you've heard something that is way deeper than you might want. So you got to realize that the modern world that we live in has a memory problem. And, you know, they admit it if you look at the math, they tell you 300,000 years for modern man, but you only get exposed to about 6,000 years of history written. So you think modern man was dumb for 300,000 years? It's longer than that of modern written history, but this is just based off of what they say. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that if this man won't treat you right, why do you expect them to teach you right? And the ancient peoples hold a lot of keys to wisdom, and they hold those things in secret. And wisdom, knowledge, understanding is what elevates you. It makes you powerful. So we're going to read some of this here. This is what he taught about the tribe of Shabazz that was revealed to him by Master Robert Muhammad, which he taught us that was Allah in the person. All right, this is where this comes from, just so we know. So the whole tribe of Shabazz, we don't have a date of the beginning of his civilization or whereabouts, because once upon a time, the moon and earth were together. There could not be a specific spot pointed out where the original building of civilization took place. We do know, according to the teachings of Almighty God to me, that once upon a time we had nothing in the universe but the sun. After the stars were made from and from stars to stars and stars, they saw that the star was essential to our well-being, and from that we began to make plans. Between the creation of sun and earth is 6 trillion years. The universe. I'm not sure that parentheses is someone else's interpretation. 6 trillion years. It's often referred to as having been made or created in three stages or three divisions, 2 trillion years each. You must know yourself. You cannot go and live in the midst of your people on the planet, Earth, nowhere, unless you first have a knowledge of yourself. I am here with that knowledge for you, if you will just accept it. Let's see who we are. We were brought here to America 400 years ago, according to the history of our enslavement, by Christian white people. I want you to remember that they were Christians, not sinners. They were Christians who made our fathers slaves. And it was Christians who did not allow our fathers to become Christians for 300 years. It was not sinners, it was Christians. What was our history? Historians and students of history. What was the history of our people before entering slavery here in America? Where were they? You say in Africa? How long had they been in Africa? Let's chase the history of our people and see who we are. If you don't know yourself, it's due to the fact that you don't know your own history. If you know your own history, you know yourself. How long had our fathers been in Africa before the white man went there and brought them into the Western Hemisphere as slaves? Where were they from before they got into Africa, or how did they originate there? You are scholars and scientists. Why don't you know these things? If we are people that are to be respected and not to be outcast and not to be outcast of the civilized world, what were our fathers before we ever came to America to come into the realization that we are outcast and unwanted people in the society of nations? Where did we come from? And was our fathers anything? God has revealed these things. Almighty God has said to me that before the white man ever brought from that particular continent, we had been there in that particular continent 50,000 years. He again said to me that before going there, we were in what we call today Arabia, the whole entire peninsula, as they call it. Before the white man came there, that country or peninsula was called Arabia. They have it divided up into many other states today. It was called Arabia, meaning the first of it, or Asia. The continent of Africa at that time was called the jungles of East Asia. Our people who are there today came from a scientist who wanted to make a people who was capable of withstanding the hot sun and could get along with the beasts and other wild animals of the jungle. We went we went to the other 24 scientists and pleaded with them to allow him to take his family into the jungles of East Asia to make the people he thought would be capable of withstanding anything of nature. That man was one of the tribe of Shabazz. We are tracing our own father's history. This man belonging to the tribe of Shabazz was the father of us from 50,000 years ago up until today. In other words, for 50,000 years he has acted, or rather he was in place as a father to us. Before this tribe of Shabazz produced that man, that scientist, there was a tribe of Shabazz called the number one tribe before our deportation from Moon. And that deportation from Moon took place 66 trillion years ago. It was one of the tribes and the only specific tribe that escaped the great disaster of the explosion of our planet, and the only scientific tribe that escaped the great disaster of the explosion of our planet in those days, who came with this part. This part of our planet dropped 36,000 miles from the original pocket in which it was in at the time of that explosion. That explosion or blast caused this part to drop 36,000 miles from the original pocket that she rotated in. The part you see at night called Moon, from the force of the blast, took it 12,000 miles away from the original pocket. The part of the Earth that dropped 36,000 miles from the original pocket found another pocket in which to rotate. Actually, it never stopped. It was too short of a distance for the planet to slow up its speed of rotation. If it had slowed up, it would have affected the people, but it didn't. It didn't slow up. The blast made and the drop the planet made due to the blast kept the planet rotating at the same rate of speed. The sun caused the sun that causes and compels the earth to rotate on an axis did not lose any power of attraction or on either part. She, sun, kept both parts moving around their orbit as this other part followed us, and it also is attached to the same part that it came from for power to continue rotating. So the moon, rotates in our orbit or rotates around the same planet it came from. This particular tribe from which our fathers came after the earth was fit after the blast were the first scientist explorers who explored the earth after the blast or earth's deportation from the moon. They found the best spot on our planet earth to make a home. They covered the entire earth. It was our fathers. We came from the same tribe, from that same tribe. They are the ones who set up history for us. They wrote it and told about it. We have it today in the holy city Mecca, put away in safekeeping vault, where no man is able to get to or attack it or even look upon it, except 12 people. There are only 12 people on our planet today that has the privilege to look into that history, and they keep the knowledge within themselves among the 12. The only one today who knows the secret of that book is the 12th one, who is acknowledged by the other 11 to be God in person. That book contains all that happened among us before we made the moon. I say we because it was our fathers who made it. There are ways to prove the truth of it. If you are a scholar, scientist, or astronomer, you have a way of proving this. Before we made this moon, we had Mars turning as our moon. But this Earth, our Earth at the time, was approximately 10,000 miles in diameter and 36,000 in circumference, whereas today it is approximately 24,896,000 in circumference, with the equator approximately 25,000 miles and straight through at the equator about 7,926 miles. Before the deportation of Moon, the Earth was approximately 10,000 miles straight through it, and about 36,000 miles at the ground at the equator. She has always been egg-shaped. When the Moon was with the Earth, she has never been totally round, sphere. It was our fathers who came with our planet and have produced for us today what we have. The God we have today is from that same Father. I want to bring you into the knowledge of yourself. There is no such thing as a God other than us. It is a grave mistake for you to try producing a God other than man. We, the black man, have been God ever since we had a life germ in the universe. And the first life germ in the universe was us. This is from God Himself. So I'm going to stop right there on that part. We just want to put some of this history out here. Just want to put some of this knowledge out here. And, I'm going to read something on the moon. Just some basic stuff. All right, so let's do this. I've seen this story, and I just wanted to check it out here. Just read through it. Organic matter on the moon. You know, okay, so this is organic matter on Mars. So this is organic matter on Mars. So they got a rover on Mars, and we want to keep up on Mars and things like that. NASA's Perseverance rover has found a glut of organic molecules on Mars, as well as other materials that make the dry river delta it is now exploring, perfect for hunting for signs of life. Perseverance rover is exploring a long, dry river delta on Mars and has seen signs that indicate that the region is full of organics, molecules containing carbon that are widely considered to be the building blocks of life. So organic doesn't necessarily mean actual, life. It just means that everything there, these molecules are there to build life. So it's not a verification there. They're not telling you it's verified. That life. The rover has taken measurements and samples in an area called Skinner Ridge, made of layered sedimentary rock. So this is water, some of which contain materials that were most likely transported from hundreds of kilometers away by running water. They say billions of years ago. They don't, just making up that. But the samples we're taking now in this more sedimentary area, we're, of course, right at the heart of what we wanted to do to start with, said NASA science lead Thomas Surburchan during a press conference on September 15th. The goal was to look at areas similar to those of Earth that harbor signs of ancient life, he said. These sedimentary rocks contain complex organic molecules called aromatics, as well as clays and sulfite minerals, which can be produced when water interacts with rocks. While none of these materials are definitely signs of life known as biosignatures, they do mean we are looking in the right place. This is really important that this has sulfate in it and also clays, because that means that this rock has high potential for biosignature preservation, meaning that if there were biosignatures in this vicinity, when the rock formed, this is precisely the type of material that will preserve that for us to study. Uh, the samples come back to Earth, said David Schuster at the University of California, Berkeley, during the press conference. The prevalence of organic matter has increased over the course of Perseverance drive through the crater in which it landed towards the river delta. If this is a treasure hunt for potential signs of life or on another planet, organic matter is a clue, said Sanada Shaman at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California during the press conference. We're getting stronger and stronger clues as we're moving through our Delta campaign. They're very careful not to. They give you something that excites you, but they're very careful not to confirm, something unless they definitely have something. So that's something. All right, so we got China. Let's read what China did. China moon rock studies include fusion energy analysis and volcanic history. Several science institutions in China are now studying rocks collected from the moon by the Chang 5 mission for research that includes evaluating material as a potential source of fusion power, Chang 5 mission delivered 3.82 pounds of lunar material to Earth in December, a first batch of 31 samples totaling zero point 0.6 616 ounces, including fine grains, basalt fragments, and glasses. See, hot. Were distributed to 13 Chinese institutions in July. When was this? This is trending. This happened, all right, September 17th, 2021. So this was last year. The Beijing Research Institute of Uranium Geology is now studying a 50 milligram sample of lunar rocks to look for an isotope called helium 3. Helium 3 has been promoted as potential fuel in future nuclear fusion power plants. While extremely rare on Earth, helium 3 is thought to be more abundant on the moon, with the isotope delivered into the unprotected lunar surface by the solar wind, a constant stream of material flowing off the sun and across the solar system. The Institute is using equipment specially designed to determine the content of helium, while the container will also heat the sample and raise the temperature of the samples gradually until it gets to about 1800 degrees Fahrenheit, 1000 degrees Celsius. The main objective of the study is to determine the content of helium 3 in the lunar soil. The extraction parameters of helium 3, which indicates at what temperature we can extract the helium and how helium 3 gets attached to the lunar soil. We will conduct a systematic study on these aspects. Hong Xin, a researcher in the Science and Technology Department of Beijing Research Institute of Uranium Geology. The idea of mining lunar helium 3 for energy on Earth, however, may be a distant prospect at best, says like Ian Crawford, professor of planetary science and astrobiology in Birkbeck University of London. Crawford told Space.com that the enormous amounts of investment and infrastructure necessary for the mining, extraction, and transportation of lunar helium 3 mean that cheaper and renewable terrestrial energy sources will probably be preferable. And that's the Chinese flag on the moon. Nevertheless, making new measurements of helium 3 concentrations at new locations on the moon is scientifically valuable. All right. So they're studying. Now, these people also have a study that showed that, and let me keep reading this actually. Hold on a second here. A number of groups and companies, see, this is a business venture for them. A number of groups and companies are studying the prospect of generating electricity from fusion power, yet technological and engineering hurdles remain. Proposed fusion reactor designs mostly opt for hydrogen isotopes called deuterium and tritium, which are plentiful on Earth as fuel sources. Meanwhile, the Institute is also studying the samples for the possible presence of radioactive element uranium. So, the bottom line is that also the moon has pretty much the same soil composition as the planet Earth, so because it was once part of the Earth, just like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught. And so, they crashed a dead rocket into a moon. They crash and they can take, with these old booster rockets, they can take, uh, they can see plumes, and they can I think this is a computer generated. Yeah, that's computer generated. Yeah, but they can check the composition of the soil by analyzing the plume. So that's all for today. I just wanted to bring that to everybody, touch base with everybody on that. Let me know what you think about the information about the biology on the moon, about the tribe of Shabazz. You know, you think that that is possible? You know, the history there and the questions that you generate for the tribe of Shabazz history. You know, are you generating those same questions for the history that the white man told you, or the history that you learned from colonized folks? Do you believe that these people will teach you right, even if we know that they're not treating us right? Okay. What are they hiding?